Hello everyone and welcome to Programming and Access 2013, the Advanced course. My name is Steve Bishop, and in today's video we're going to be talking about migrating Access data tables over to SQL Server. Now, I want to take a moment here to talk to you about the process in general. Understand that an Access database has all of its data stored in tables with a very specific set of data types. SQL Server has a different set of data types. So let's say, for example, an integer. Integer in Access is called integer. There's also a field called integer in SQL Server, but they have two completely different size restrictions. Okay? In Access, there are certain limitations to how big the numbers can be. In SQL Server, there's a different limitation to how big those numbers can be. There's also other things that simply don't exist. For example, Access has attachments. There is no such thing as attachments in SQL Server. So because of this discrepancy in the different data types, not just in the names of them, but how big those fields can be, there needs to be some sort of interpretation between the two different types of data. The way that those data types are interpreted is through something called a driver. Now, a driver needs to be installed on your computer, on the computer that you're going to be doing the data conversion on, in order for this migration process to happen. For Access, you need to have a special thing installed on your computer called the Access 2013 runtime. Now, even if you have Access 2013 installed, the full professional edition that comes with Office, you still need to go out and download this Access 2013 Runtime Edition because it comes with that special driver installed in it. Okay, so go ahead and go out to this website, www.microsoft.com/en-us/details.aspx ? ID equals 39358. You can also, of course, just go to Bing or Google and do Access 2013 Runtime, and you will get this URL as one of the results. So we need to go ahead and go out and download this Access 2013 Runtime, and make sure you're getting the appropriate version, the bit version. So mine is a 64-bit operating system, so make sure I'm going to get the 64-bit version. If you have a 32-bit version, then you need to go get the x86. Okay, I've already downloaded and installed it. If you have not done that yet, go ahead and pause the video at this time, go to the website, download this this Runtime Edition. I'll also make a link in the description of this video so you can easily just click on it and go download it. But make sure it's fully installed before you proceed to the next section of this video. Okay, so hopefully you've already got it installed. You got the Access 2013 Runtime installed, and you're ready to go. Next, we need to actually have a database to work with. And I'm going to go and actually just open up Access. I'm not going to open up a database that's on my system just yet. I'm just going to go to Microsoft Access here. And on the first page where I can search for online templates, I'm going to type in Northwind. This is a database that's been around for a while for testing, to do demonstrations and testing with. Microsoft makes this freely available to you. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on this desktop Northwind 2007 sample database. And when I do that, it's going to go ahead and use that template to create a brand new database file for me. And in this file will be a bunch of forms, reports, queries, etc., including some tables with data in them. I'm going to click on the drop down here next to the Northwind here on my navigation pane and go to Object Type and drop down the tables, and you can see here are the tables that are part of the Northwind database. If I just expand this out, I'm going to go into the design view. You can see we've got ID as an auto number, company as a short text, there's address as a long text, and hyperlink and attachments. So you can see there are different types of data in here. Now, one is called hyperlink, right? We have a data type of hyperlink in Access. But if I go and do a search for the supported data types of SQL Server 2014, here are the different data types on this page that you can pull up. It's msdn.microsoft.com/en-library/dn133179.aspx. But of course, you could just do a Google or Bing search for SQL Server 2014 data types, and you'll get this page. Here are the different data types, and if I look at the string data types, you'll see char, nvarchar, nchar, nvarchar, sysname, varchar. There isn't anything in here called hyperlink. So that is the discrepancy that I was talking to you about before. There's a data type in Access called hyperlink, but there is no data type called hyperlink or anything even comparable, really, in SQL Server. So there has to be that conversion process. Okay, so we've got our tables here. Again, like I said, if you already got that SQL Server or the Access Runtime Edition installed, then you're good to go. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close this completely down. And I'm going to go and click on my Start button. And I'm going to go looking for this option here under the SQL Server called SQL Server 2014 Import and Export Data and My 4-bit. And this will open up a wizard. This is it comes with SQL Server. It's part of the installation package that you hopefully got with the advanced services package that you downloaded and installed on your for SQL Server. This is really the best way to go to do the export and import of the data. There are other methods, and in fact, in Access 2010, and I believe it was also in 2007, there was an export wizard to SQL Server that came with Access, but they took it out of the 2013 edition of Access. So unfortunately, that option is not available anymore. You have to use the SQL Server import and export wizard. There is one other alternative that I'm just going to quickly point out here, is if I open up my database again, which is this one here, database 3. If we look inside here, there's an external data tab, and if I select under export, I hit more, there's something called an ODBC database. And we will be talking about ODBC database connections a little bit later. They become a very, very important part to your Access database, being able to connect and get data from the SQL Server. So you can see even export selected object to an ODBC database such as SQL Server. But the ODBC connection will take a bit to get to set up and configure. That will be in a separate video. And not only that, unfortunately, if you try to select more than one table to do the export, you can see the more option is gone. So you would have to do one table at a time, and that is very, very annoying. So you need to go through this import and export wizard to do kind of, a big bulk import. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on the next option. Or the next button here, and it's going to ask me to choose a data source. And on this drop-down list, you'll see a variety of different drivers. This is what I was talking about. These are the interpreters to the table data. So we have different interpreters here. We have a .NET Framework data provider for ODBC, for Oracle, SQL Server, there's Flat File Source, there's one for Microsoft Access Database Engine, there's one for Excel, there's another one for Access. There's an OLEDB provider for analysis services, 11 and 12, for search for SQL Server, and SQL Server native client 11.0. So there's obviously a lot of different drivers. You may have a variety of different ones available to you. You may have more or less than what we have, or than what I have in this list. But the important one here is this Microsoft Access. And then in parentheses, it says Microsoft Access Database Engine. It is very, very, very important that it says exactly this. Microsoft Access Database Engine. If it says anything other than this, then you have not properly installed that Access 2013 runtime. It's very important that it says this, because there is a jet engine version of this, and if you have the jet engine version, this conversion process will fail. So again, make sure you get that runtime edition of 2013 installed properly. You may be tempted to use this Microsoft Office 15.0 Access Database Engine OLEDB provider. Do not. I recommend that you do not. It is possible. There is a way to do it, but there are some data type conversion issues that you would need to address. And simply, it's too much to kind of go through in this video about what those hurdles would be. So it's just better if you do this Microsoft Access Database Engine version. Okay. So I've got that selected. I'm going to go ahead and browse to the file, which again was called Database 3. But you'll notice that Microsoft Access files is right now limited to just *.mdb. If I click on the drop down, I can change that to all files though, and scroll down, and there's my Database 3. I'm going to go ahead and open that. And of course, my database is called Database 3. Whatever your database is that you're going to be converting, you obviously want to browse to it and select it. I don't have a username or password required. I don't need to do anything in the advanced button. I'm going to go ahead and click on Next. Now I need to select a destination. The previous screen was for the source. This is now where am I going to be putting the data. Okay, so I need to again select a drop down, but this time I'm going to go down to SQL Server Native Client. And that's what I'm going to select. You can see the server name says Steve's-PC SQL Express. That's correct. If you have it located somewhere else on your network, you could click on this drop down. The SQL Server will actually go out and search your network to see what the other SQL servers are that are available on the network, and I don't have any, but you would be able to select it from the drop down here. So that's kind of handy. It goes out and does a search for you to find where your SQL instance is installed. I'm going to use Windows authentication, again, because I don't have mixed mode turned on. I'm only using Windows authentication. If you did create and set up an SA account, then you would just go ahead and put the username as SA and password is whatever you set the password to. The database, right now, I don't have anything in here for my Northwind database. I haven't created it yet. Okay, I have master, model, MSDB, and tempdb and report server. You do not, under any circumstances, ever use these databases for your destination. Okay, do not do that. These are important databases for SQL Server, and you never want to use them. Okay, I can't emphasize that enough. I'm going to go and click on the new button, but I just want to show you real quick. You could go here to databases and right click and create a new database and call it whatever you want to first. Just don't put any tables or anything in it to start with. Just go ahead and you could create that database if you wanted to. But instead of doing that, instead of going through the SQL Server Management Studio, you could just click on the new button and it'll basically do the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and name this Northwind. I'm going to leave all of these the defaults for right now, and I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And it's going to go create a database for me. And I'm going to click Next. So my destination and my source are all set up. Now I need to select, do I want to copy data from one or more tables or views, or do I want to write just a query to specify the data be transferred? So this is kind of, just to understand what this is, this would write just a query to do everything, and then you could run that query at any time. Or you can do the copy data from one or more tables or views. So I'm going to just do the copy data. And that's going to give us this, which is a nice little interface that we can select from our different tables and views. So I'm going to go ahead and select everything here. And you'll see that the destination now has a DBO in front of everything by default. This is what we call the schema in SQL Server. Don't need to get into it too much, but just understand that this is a perfectly reasonable thing to happen. This is going to happen. It's okay. You don't need to freak out because all of a sudden your tables are going to have this new DBO in front of them. You actually want that to happen. So you'll see all of these now have this schema in front of them. I'm going to go ahead and click on Next. And sometime between that last screen that we were just on and here, you may get some sort of data type conversion issue. If I'm going to scroll through this list here, and I don't have any errors currently, but let's just assume that this customers section here, or this customers table, had a red X here instead. that would indicate that there was some sort of data type conversion issue that you need to resolve as the user. So if you have one of those things and you have a red X here, you're going to want to figure out which table it is here, okay? And then if you go back to it and you select just the one table, so not multiple tables, but just one table that's having the problem, you can click on the Edit Mappings button here, and you can actually do something pretty useful. You can either exclude by changing it to ignore for the destination table, and that would actually exclude that column from being converted over to SQL Server. And you can also change the data type. So if it doesn't recognize the data type, you can try changing the data type to one that you think is going to be correct. Or, most likely what you're going to have to do is go ahead and do that ignore and then bring over your data in another way, which we will be going into how to do some of that stuff in another video. But for right now, if you run into a problem where this says something like, data type not found or incompatible data type or something like that, you're just going to want to go to the destination, click ignore, and ignore that one particular column for now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click OK. All my mappings are good. Everything checks out here. I'm all green on everything. Know that when it says on error global fail, what this means is that if there is any sort of error doing anything on any of these tables, it's going to cancel the entire process if I select fail. I can change this to ignore, and if I do that, it's just going to ignore that one error and continue on to do the conversions for everything else. But I'm going to go ahead and fail on either of those instances. I'm going to go ahead and click next and make sure run immediately is checked and finish. And here we go. It's going to take a little while here to go ahead and do the process. It's setting up my database tables and doing some precursory checks. And you can see that there are messages that appear here on the right. So when it's done, I'm going to show you what one of these messages looks like. So we're just going to sit here and wait for a second here. I promise this won't take too long. I've done this a couple times. 10 items, 4, 3, 4, 5, 2, 1, 0. There we go. Okay, so we have success. All right, good. We can see here in the message section, I've got a warning for validating, which we'll get to in just a second. But we've got how many rows of information were transferred. So from the customers table, 29 rows of information was transferred over to SQL Server. In the employee privileges, 1 row was transferred. In the employees section, 9 rows were transferred, etc. So you can compare those numbers. So we have 29 rows. You can compare that to what's actually in your database if you want. You can click on the link here, and it will give you some information. And if you had an error, you could click on this link and it will give you more descriptive information about what that error was. Most likely, again, if it was a data type conversion issue, this would tell you which table and which field failed to convert, and you can respond appropriately to try to fix that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and click OK on that. This is just a warning. It didn't cause any real serious problems. I can click on one of these rows and you can see it's just going to tell me, it copied from the one to the other, copied 2 products, and it had success and 45 rows were transferred. Nothing really all that special that I don't already know. You can even run a report if you wanted to view the report or save it to a file or copy to clipboard or send it in an email, all that good stuff. I'm going to go ahead and click on close, and now I'm going to have my Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio open, and you'll see if I look at the databases, that Northwind database hasn't been created yet. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to make sure I'm selecting the databases folder, and I hit F5 to refresh this, and you'll see there's my Northwind database. Let's go ahead and open it just to make sure. I'm going to drill down here to the tables section, and you'll see here are all of my tables that I imported. So I've got customers, customers extended, privileges, employees extended, inventory on hold, etc. So you can open up each one of these, and I'm just going to go ahead and do that right now. I'm going to open it up in design view, and you'll see that there are some things that are a little bit different here. Okay, for example, ID is not set as a primary key. There's no normally on a SQL Server table, you would see a key just like you do if I open this up here in Access. If I open up the customers in design view, you'll see there's a key next to the field here, right? So ID should be the primary key. Well, there should also be a key right here next to ID, but there isn't. So you can go and you can do that to set that to primary key. We're going to go through some of the things that you're going to need to do after the conversion process is complete in the next video. But for right now, just take a look through your tables that have been converted over, make sure everything is there. I'm actually going to go ahead and remove the primary key there. You might want to open it up. You can actually right click on a table and you can do select top 1000 rows, and that'll show you in this list 1,000, the top 1,000 results from your table. So you can kind of look and compare the data if you want to make sure that the data is correct from off of your customers table, but I already know it's good. So there you go. That's going to be it for this video. In the next video, like I said, we're going to go over some of the issues of the conversion, some of the things that you need to address after the data has been converted over to SQL Server to make it work with your Access database. All right. So there we go, and I look forward to talking to you guys in the next video.